Morning. What a horrible picture to have up. Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Chris Sutton has been having a little bit of a go at Brendan Rodgers and the football doctor at Celtic, but he's been having a major dig at an ex-Celtic manager. Yep, an ex-Celtic manager. A Celtic manager that some of the younger fans, some of the younger supporters of the club may not know who John Barnes is. Celtic have not always had it so easy when it comes to winning things. And Celtic did go through a time where they did hire managers that were just absolutely Raphael shite. To mention one player that was in and around the team at that time. Now, John Barnes was brought into Celtic as part of the Dream Team. Yes, he was brought in with Kenny Dalglish as his kind of director of football, if you like. He didn't really have a title, Kenny, at the time. He was just brought in as part of the Dalglish-Barnes Dream Team. John Barnes was a Liverpool player who, the biggest thing that he did in life was sing a Liverpool song that got into the charts. No, he did okay at football. John Barnes was an absolutely terrible Celtic football manager and was rightly sacked. And years later, he tried to say it was all about the colour of his skin and other things, the reason that he was chucked out of Celtic Park. But although he tried to change the course of history in the way that he was remembered by Celtic fans will remember that he was a flop. He was garbage. And even though Kenny Dalglish did take Celtic on to win a trophy that season, and if it wasn't for the sacking of Barnes, I don't think they would have won that trophy. But Kenny Dalglish did win a trophy, and it was a fantastic time, to be honest, as a Celtic fan, because Kenny Dalglish just went, fuck it. I'm sure he went down to, was it Baird's Bar he went to, and he done the press conference, the Friday press conference for the pub. He was like, fuck it. It's just absolutely brilliant. But it was nothing compared to the likes of wee Gordon Strachan. Gordon Strachan just upped the level with banter and just telling the media to do one. But anyway, John Barnes has had a little bit of dig at Brendan Rodgers, saying that he's got it easy at Celtic. And he said that Chris Sutton's been speaking about it. Brendan Rodgers has made Celtic job look easy life. John Barnes has a bizarre pop. He's criticised Rodgers after ditching England in the Premier League again. The criticism was bizarre. John Barnes coming out taking a bit of pop at Brendan Rodgers, and he's got the cheek to say that he's got the easy life. Someone who's been the manager of the club, I think, would know better, says Chris Sutton. It wasn't easy for him during his charge at time. His time in charge. I didn't even like talking about the guy. I have palpitations and everything talking about John Barnes. He was a nightmare. He was worse than Tony Mowbray, and that's saying something. He was really bad. It's like it was like going back to the early 1990s. Shite time for trophies in the 90s, but we're a good team to watch. Big Pierre, Cadet, Van Hooijdonk, Morten Weghorst, boy for Benny Offer, knows his players for back then. John Barnes was a total flop. I'm just reading some of the comments. And to be fair, John Barnes went on to do absolutely nothing in football. And for them to have, I mean, he managed to take the club backwards, John Barnes. He took the club to a position where we were around about 20 points behind the Sevco at the time. 20 points behind Sevco. And it was unbelievable. He took what was potentially a league winning side and we got beat to Inverness Cali Thistle. That's the big thing that I remember for then. We got beat for Inverness Cali. But anyway, he goes on to say, like, let's be clear, Rodgers has made it look easy. He's on track to win 12 out of 13 competitions he's entered. Oh, Jesus. And Chris Sutton has stood up for the current incumbent boss. Chris Sutton says, look, I don't care who's in charge of Rangers. The return that Brendan Rodgers has given Celtic in terms of trophies won over the 2 terms that he's been at Celtic has been remarkable. And there's not many bosses who have done that. The consistency has been incredible. And a lot of people that don't like Brendan Rodgers will be saying, oh, come on, stop giving Brendan Rodgers the love. Well, this is Chris Sutton. Chris Sutton, the big man himself, just shooting from the hip. And I can tell him Barnes is an absolute nugget. Celtic may have a bigger budget because John Barnes is like, they've got money to spend now. They didn't have money to spend well, they did have money to spend, but Barnes, you were completely nonsense. You were just a knob. And let's get that right. Celtic may have a bigger budget than the rest, says Chris Sutton, but it's a balancing act. Where a draw is a disaster, defeat's a catastrophe, and across the city demands similar. And they've churned out many managers over the years. I mean, look at the current manager. Oh, man. When you look at the current manager, this man, look at how many Rangers managers that he's seen off over the years. And for John Barnes to say that he's had life easy, well, tell that to the 7 has-beens that have tried to take the title. I mean, they'll come out and go, well, what about Gerrard? Yeah, what about Gerrard, big man? He 10.5 years. He 10.5 years. But Gerrard won the Nobody Was Watching Us Cup, didn't he? Anyway, but Chris Sutton decided to go on his verbal attack. The club were 13 points clear and in the hunt for a treble, but supporters have been miserable all week. This week, the challenge for the club is to get Callum McGregor back fit, because let's face it, there's some supporters who have raised doubts about the captain, Chris Sutton says. And Sunday, not this week, the week after, Sunday past, should shut them up, because people that are saying, and he's right, and yeah, let's do a poll about that. Let's do a quick poll. Better not do that. Somebody will get upset that I called them Huns. Did we miss Calmac? There's a question for you this morning. Did we miss Callum McGregor in the Zombies game? Serious question, because Boy for Benny Office says, being honest about Ferguson, great for the dad. Fucking who cares? Didn't even read that there. Henry, I've spoke about this before. Yes. I've spoke about this weeks ago. Yes. Be warned. I have spoke about that on videos before. Anyway, get back to it. Too many players took the safe option. McGregor is one who doesn't. He feels that Chris Sutton goes on to say that the people that are saying that Arne Engels didn't live up to the 11 million price tag against Rangers. He's only 21-year-old. We need, and I've said about this before, we need a real strong holding midfield player that can take over for Callum McGregor. Not somebody lightweight, somebody that can play the game, somebody that can read the game, and somebody that can ultimately boss the game about. Callum McGregor's always had older, experienced midfielders playing around him. Now he's got younger guys, and they're not to the standard. Let's face it, they're not to the standard to put in the fight that Bruni had, to just say one player. But people say that, look, Chris Sutton goes on to say, look, he's still only 21, Arne Engels, and there's a lot from his displays that he can go on to be a fantastic player. I don't think that the McGregor role is his best position. Speaking to people who watched him in Germany, they generally feel that he's more effective further up the pitch. It might come, but I'm not sure. The physicality of the role was too obvious. He was uncomfortable, being put under intense pressure, and he wants more time on the ball, which you don't get in Scotland, and certainly not in a derby game. Engels gets battered with his price tag, Chris Sutton says, but some people say he doesn't look like an £11 million player. What does an £11 million player look like? Locks of hair and suave. I don't know. Chris is right. What does an £11 million player look like? I see plenty who cost more in the English Premier League. And look, they'd struggle to control a beach ball. Oh, Chris Sutton, don't say beach ball when that mob are still in Europe. But Chris Sutton has a dig, people having a dig at Arnie Engels, saying, look, there's players in the Premiership that cost way more and they could struggle to control a beach ball. Relatively, yes, Engels struggled to impose himself in the Rangers game, as did many players. But last weekend was one of the first that he started in that position. For more experienced players have lost the plot in this fixture, which they have. Lenny's lost the plot in that fixture. Scott Brown's lost the plot in that picture. El Hadj Diouf fucking completely lost the plot. And many Rangers fans will know that there's been many Rangers players over the years that have lost the plot. Paulo Bernardo was a big loss to Celtic, and this also strengthens Rodgers' hand for the summer. I know that Kieran Tierney is coming back to the club, but there's work that needs to be done. Celtic are in a superb position, Chris Sutton goes to say. They know that the title's in the bag. But that means the Champions League planning has to happen now. This is exactly what I spoke about in the hurrah after the game last weekend. I said that the need to use this week is to look at all the positives, to look at the positives that have happened through the season. There's been many positives. There's been many positives. There's been hundreds of positives. But you have to also look at the negative aspects of what's happened this season and the results that didn't go our way. Now, there's 3 games in particular that you need to look at when it comes to what may happen in the league next season. And unfortunately, those 3 games were against that one club. So you have to look at it. But Chris Sutton does go on to say, with almost a year inside the club, fans will now be looking for Paul Tisdale, the football doctor, to deliver. Yes, with the champions coming up. We're champions, and we know it. Champions again, ole ole. The Champions League playoff, the second half of August. The problem for Rodgers is we need to get last Sunday's result not just in isolation, because we need to look at the bench. And yes, we did have Paulo Bernardo out injured. We had Austin Trusty out injured. We had Callum McGregor out injured. And we had Liam Scales out injured. Now, that's 4 first-team players that would have taken part in the game. But then you have to look at the 6 first-team players that Celtic have said, you're not good enough, and out on loan. 6 first-team players. That's a full first-team squad that wasn't available. You know, that's almost a full first-team starting team that aren't available at Celtic, but are still getting money. So Paul Tisdale says, Chris Sutton says he needs to sort out the recruitment after Rodgers has admitted in recent years it's not been up to scratch. Brendan Rodgers said in the summer Celtic should react quicker in the transfer market. He said again in the last transfer window he knew that a Celtic player, Kyogo Furuhashi, wanted away from the club for a few months. We have known for a few months that Kyogo Furuhashi has wanted away from the club. This guy was brought in to change things. Paul Tisdale, the clock is now ticking. The clock is ticking. And this summer, you need to produce the goods. Or otherwise, what the hell are you doing at Celtic? If we do not get in the type of player that can, 1, make us better in the Champions League, 2, make us stronger in derby games, it will be a failure of a summer. Bringing back Kieran Tierney is a fantastic start. Fantastic start. We will lose players this summer. I think that we will lose Kuhn. I think that we will lose Rio Hatate. The big question mark is, can we keep a hold of Dyson Maeda? Rio Hatate has said on previous Rio Hatate has said umpteen times that he wants to play at a higher level. He's said that. It's going to be a massive summer for Celtic. Celtic will get inquiries about their players. Can they hold off? Can they convince the players to stay for another crack at the Champions League? And what adds it into the mix even more? Can Brendan Rodgers entice players to the club when he himself only has 1 year to go on his own contract? Would you come and sign for a manager that only has 1 year to go on his contract? If you're a top player, you want a bit of stability. Yes, managers come and go at clubs, but when it's a club at the Champions League level, stability is number one. It's key. Stability is key. Stability of the squad so that we can improve on last year's performances in the Champions League. Stability of the squad so that the players coming in know that the majority of the squad that played in the Champions League are of a decent quality. If we lose more than 3 first-team players this summer, and by first team, I mean Nico Kuhn, Rio Hatate and Dyson Maeda. The ones that are out on loan, you can forget about them. I don't class them as first-team players. They're players that don't want to be at Celtic anymore. Your Stephen Welsh, your Odom Ohm, your Gustav Lager-Belkis, your Lewis Palmer. He's the only one with the option to buy, obligation to buy. But anyway, the fact that you've got this absolute nugget of an ex-manager, John Barnes, slating Brendan Rodgers, saying that he's got it easy at Celtic, and for a bonus point in the comment section, tell me the name of the big baldy referee who came for Kirkcaldy. Yep, the big baldy referee who's standing in the background, the fourth official who's standing in the background behind the Rangers manager. He came from Kirkcaldy. What was his name? Tell me that in the comments section. Anyway, that's a bit of a laugh this morning. Did we miss Kalmak in the Zom game? 86% have said yes. Let's jump into the comments section and see what you are saying. I can see there's a lot of conversations going on. I'm just going to go to the latest ones. That's defeats through of that mob. So what was the excuse? Management mindset. We aren't capable of beating them. Look how we played against Bayern. We struggled against the Huns. Yeah, we struggled against the Huns. Completely different types of game, and Bayern Munich didn't play 6 at the back. The problem that we have with Scottish football is you now have teams that will play 5-6 at the back, as Rangers did, and we struggle to break that down. Now, Brendan Rodgers, as a manager, will say, well, we need to attack faster. But how can you attack faster? And it's difficult to get past a back line that are halfway up their own half with 6 players just standing a line across the box. One, you can run offside. They'll play the offside trap. So, I mean, Brendan Rodgers needs to come up with a system that allows his players to play through that type of thing. Keep saying that, but no offers for him. Yep, exactly. Talking about Barnes was useless as manager. Played 4-2-2-2, the clown. John Robotham, you got it right, Eugene. You got it right. John Robotham, yep. Robotham. Eugene was the first one to get it right, and he got it right. John Barnes, is he not a rapper? Yeah, and the biggest thing that he did do was that Liverpool song, wasn't it? And that's what he's known for. Wasn't Douglas and Barnes charge of our human? Yes, they were, Ian. It was it was Barnes that was in charge, and ultimately that was the game that was enough to get him kicked out the door. But anyway, the fact that he's been having a dig at Brendan Rodgers, and in the media saying that he's got it easy at Celtic, say that he's got the biggest budget and they can outspend anyone. Well, look at the leagues down south. There's teams that can outspend anyone that that win the league quite regular and then they have a really bad season. Anyway, who cares? John Barnes, you are A.W. Anchor. Anyway, Ray says, I think KT coming back will be huge, not just his play, but his position and his fight is something that was missing a lot against the Sevconians. England's song, England's pish song. No, he did the walk on song. Walk on, with hope in your hands, and you the walk. We're pushed the lad, but they're nothing down. The rest of the lads in good sus will have to learn them to talk like us. It was that shite song, wasn't it? It was a Liverpool song. It was absolute rank rotten. Oh man, back in the day when football teams used to bring out Christmas songs. Anyway, Barnes looks like he's from the Grange Hill. A Scouse shell suit, yep. If he didn't get into football, he would have been robbing cars, exactly. Had a week away from checking all the Celtic news. Let stuff simmer, but after that last game, yeah, it well did. Eugene says Sevco will drop more points. Who cares? John Barron does not make it worthwhile point. Does make a worthwhile point. Says Mo. Do you think that he makes a worthwhile point that walking away from English football and outspending everyone, you've still got to beat the same. You've got to beat whoever's in your playing. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. But anyway, we are light years ahead of the rest of Scotland's resources. Wise, says Mo. Mo, we're only 2 seasons of not. Put this into perspective. If we lose the league 2 seasons in a row and they qualify for the Champions League 2 seasons in a row, it's then a level playing field. It's not we're not light years ahead of them. Our academy's not ahead of them. Academy-wise, we're nowhere near, we're not in front. Yes, building a brand new stadium for the women and for that's infrastructure. Infrastructure-wise, we're ahead of them. But when it comes to first team players, when it comes to first team scouting, when it comes to B team and bringing players through the B team, we're not miles ahead. We need a reality check. Jerry says, John Barnes, did he not say he would have been manager if he wasn't black? Yes, he did. He did. Years later, he said he would have still been the manager if he wasn't black. And everyone went, shut up, Barnes, you absolute plonker. Even Rodney Trotter went, you fucking plonker. Anyway, I remember Barnes starting off like a house on fire with Larson and got the snapped leg and went down for their rapid. You can't blame that. He was a total disaster. That would be a total disaster on our part, says Mo. Yes, it would be. And we have to face the reality that look how close. If they get their shit in order and they start beating other teams on an ongoing basis, they can't be shite forever, and they won't be shite forever. And I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of the competition, but we're not light years ahead of them. And I think that you need to have that realisation. We're only 2 years in not winning the league, and that's us on a level play. That's them on a level playing field financially, and they will have the same money in the bank as us. It's the way that it goes. World in motion. Oh, Willie man, Jesus. Oh. It was World in Motion, the song. Oh my God. Barnes was terrible, but Rodgers is clueless. He's blew millions. There's the truth, lads, said Jylin. I think there's a lot of managers that have blown millions over the years at Celtic. And the fact that Chris Sutton said this is massive. This summer is the summer that you're expecting the football doctor, Paul Tisdale, to step up to the mark. Because if he doesn't, and we don't unearth some absolute gems that are fantastically physical, strong football players for the Champions League. Now, we need big, tall, strong midfielders for the Champions League. When you look at the height difference of some of the players that we played against, and fair enough, you'll say, oh, Messi was tiny. Messi had fucking talent. You know, Messi had talent. He could take on anybody. He still does. But anyway, not really. It's in 100 million of debt. It's a cringe when I hear Barnes' name mentioned. I wish I could erase it, says Ian. Yep, I think we all do. And I think it's just funny that yeah, boy for Ben Elford. The weather's turning this week, so yeah, try and catch up with you when you're over. Give me a shout when you're over. If you're going to Hoops Bar, I might go to the Hoops Bar for the next game. But anyway, let's finish up the poll. There's 105 votes. Did we miss Calmac against the Zombies game? 84% say yes. And tomorrow morning's poll, I'll probably ask the question, let me think about that actually. Anyway, I've heard that Sevco will spend 25 million a season. I don't care if they spend 25 million a season. They need to spend 25 million every season just to catch up with us, and then that puts them in the relative range of being a little bit closer. But then can they afford that financially? And then Celtic, if we want to progress in Europe, we need to be spending 25-30 million. You know, never mind about Arne Engels, who's only 21-year-old. We need to go out and spend 15 million on a quality midfield player that is a bit of an animal. Just saying. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. I'm going to take the good lady out for a breakfast. Celtic for Bills. Who cares about that? Anyway, we are away ahead of them. Instead of getting out of sight, we took our foot off the pedal. Mark gets the last word of the morning. He is completely correct. We are ahead of them in many, many ways, but we have took our foot off the pedal. And on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are.